Well, hello there again. Welcome to Living Humanely. It's a wonderful day out there, so I'm in here. But I'm glad to see all you folks because I don't see it too often. You know, I'm going to tell you, you probably wonder if I'm knocking back. But what happened last October, I got a back injury, and it's really kept me sidelined since then. So I'm back, and I did a couple of shows, but didn't work too good. So I'm back, and I hope that you get as much out of this as I do, because it's nice to be here. You know that I usually talk about animals and things that are going on, and I knock the president and so forth. And I think being back like this, I'll probably give you some more of that. However, in the future, I'd like to have you get interested in becoming a part of this program. It's not difficult to be a producer, which I am, so you know it isn't difficult. And it's you get some pleasure. You're putting out information you think people can use, or you're just saying things that you want other people to hear. But it's really rewarding, and I'll tell you the truth, an awful lot of people have stopped me through the years and said they liked what I did. I've only been threatened twice. And I've been here over 20 years, so that's not bad. And it's a cozy. We've got a nice facility here. This is nice. This is brand new, just bought, been renovated, and it's top of the line. And it'd be nice to see some interest. You can send me an email, humaneroy5 at yahoo.com. And tell me of a guest you think you'd like to see on, or something you'd like to hear me talk about, so I could do a little research on it, or that you'd like to be on yourself. Because like I said, and when there's two of us, it's a piece of cake, because what we do is we write it all down before we do it, and everybody works on a cue. So you might really think about something like that. It's really a good thing. I don't know. I feel it's definitely an accomplishment to people who don't get out much, or people like to have a laugh. So I've said that, and I want to talk a little bit about animals. It's bad weather at times for animals. Okay, what we have is a lot of heat and people that don't know how to treat their animals. And, they have things like you have to protect them. There's some small clothing that you can put over them, especially short-haired animals, and break the sun, all right? One of the things my wife does to make our dog comfortable is wash her face. They get stuck on things, and I give my dog ice cream, and she's got it all over here, and my wife does it. And the dog, it seems like, hey, that's good. She's got one that she doesn't say that's good. My wife brushes her teeth. And it may sound funny, but some stomach disorders and heart disorders come from bad teeth. That's us and dogs. So it would behoove you to do that, so they don't have that taste in their mouth and they don't breathe it on you and all that, but mostly for their health. And when you walk them, don't walk them on a hot sidewalk. That's not good. Their pads aren't what you think they are. They're pads, but they're not burn-proof. So try not to do something like that. Cruelty is, I read about it quite often, and they're trying to close in on it, the puppy mills in Massachusetts, and I'm amazed at how many there are. And a lot of people think they're doing a favor for the animal, and they probably are. when they adopt an animal from, let's say, Berkshire Humane or Sonsini or somebody like that, or a private breeder, and maybe they are, maybe they're not. Because often I see them, they come up from down south, and everybody said, oh, I saved this puppy. And what these guys do is they push them out like an assembly line. And I told you probably the ugliest story I ever heard, where a guy was told he can't do that. This is probably 15 years ago. You can't do that. So he shot and killed 80 dogs, all his. Huh? I'll talk about a dopey farmer. But in any case, we try to get away from that stuff. And learning about animals, I think, teaches children, and you have to teach them how to be around animals, gives them a good feeling of what they do in life. That's the first thing that they adopt. They have the dog, the parents teach them how to handle the dog, they grow together, and there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. That's your buddy for life. You'll never forget him. It's very rewarding. And you can help with some dogs because they're runaways, they're strays, or somebody tied them to a fence post. And I like to tie them for a fence post for a couple of months. You know, they tie their legs together so they don't run when they're out feeding in the fields. They won't run away. When you look at their legs, the horses, you know, it's all buffed off, you know, that's not right. A lot of people just say, well, it's only an animal. That's not true. All animals have feelings. And we have feelings, so we should share them. So, you know, that's something I think that you should take to heart. When your kids, or you see kids do something good, compliment on it. And the same thing with your dog. You know, one of the dumbest things I've ever seen is an owner has a dog, and he's 50 yards away, and he says to the dog, come on, Butch, come on, Butch. And Butch just sort of looks around, and he gives that Butch a few times, and finally, Butch comes, and then that guy hits him with his hat. That'll teach you. Well, you know what he just taught him? When they call Butch, don't come. You're going to be a stray dog. I had a neighbor, I'm glad he's not around. I saw him punch his dog. He almost killed him. So, you know, and he's the kind of guy, if I went to that guy, he might have killed me. He was something else. That's a long story, and he wasn't here long. But man, oh man, I walked on tiptoes with that guy for a neighbor. But in any case, be good to him. You know, one of my favorite writings is, this is by, who is this by? I forgot. But anyway, it says here, when Adam first did fall from grace, something died within him. His very soul was weak and frail. Understanding this, and God looked down upon the man and said, he's lost something special. He'll have to learn all over again to feel on the same level. He must have a teacher to live close by his side, to teach him about by example, and be a friend and a guide. He must have great courage and the patience and unsurpassed will, for his will be the thankless lesson. I give him a woman, but she is not what he needs. And she fails. Humbly she fails. And she suffers every wrong thing, yet still kisses your hand. The man now seems to have gone blind. His mind seems in a fog. Who will guide him back to me, said God. And he said, I know. I'll send the dog. That, you know, if I could read better, that would have been a lot better, but that is so good. That is so good. It's true. They tied bombs to dogs in war, you know. And they'd run up near tanks and explode and so forth. And then they turn the dogs loose on anybody. And then, of course, when you see the war movies, you don't see the dog because they eat them. Okay, on the other, on a lighter note, I want to congratulate all the young people and older people who graduated from high school and college. And while I say from, I used to watch Andy Rooney. I used to watch all 60 Minutes just for him. And I liked the show, but he was great. And the one thing I liked that he said was, you cannot graduate from a school. No, you can't graduate school. That's it. I'm sorry. You can't graduate school. You have to graduate from school because you can't graduate a school. I like that. And Andy spoke like that. He was a pretty classy guy. You're out of school, you might think of extending your education. You might think of going back to school someplace else. My neighbor did that. She's going after a master's now. One of my daughters did that. And you're not going to go anyplace unless you go to school. Now, these technical places like McCann. McCann graduated like 107 kids this year. That's the biggest in North County. You know, Adams and Hoosick Valley and Greylock each did 80, and North Adams, I believe, did 73. So, you know, it's up a little from last year, but you're not going to go anyplace unless Dad owns the business, okay? Over the years, I've seen this. I'm old enough to see this. People plan for their retirement. They go to school, they study, they work hard, and the commercials always tell you, save. You're not saving enough for your retirement, because what's it going to cost you, Harry? I don't know, $250,000. What about you? Well, $250 million. And it's, you know, they got all these people walking on lines and writing on the wall. But it's a good idea to save for your retirement, but don't starve yourself from having a good time in life because you're saving for retirement, because we really know that often that retirement money goes to a nephew or a cousin or somebody that's going to urinate it against the wall. So you can't cheat yourself on that money, okay? And to support that, a little bit of money. When you retire, you may get a part-time job that are very easy. I had one for over 20 years after I retired from GE. Of course, that's what hurt my back. But nonetheless, I worked over 20 years sorting bottles and cans. I had a little 3 days a week, 3 hours a day, put a little change in my pocket. I could buy an ice cream on my own. So, you know, it's like that. You can't, I've heard people say, I don't know, I give up. You can't do that. I'm one who always says, I quit. Well, you can't quit. When you quit, you let your partners down. You quit, you let your family down. You let your neighborhood and friends down. You can't do that, no matter what the hell you're doing. You know, they save through the years and they work hard, and the guy says, well, what are you going to do when you retire? And I said, well, I'm going to work around my house. And I said, whoa, you must have some house. The average retirement, I think, is something like 15 years. I mean, you got to have a big house to work 15 years, right? And he said, well, I'm going to do some traveling. I like to travel. Most people do, I think. I don't. I mean, it's nice, but I don't. Excuse me, but I don't have anything against it. The only thing I have against people who travel is they want to tell me about it, or they want to show me pictures about it. And I couldn't want anything least than that. It's terrible. Look where we are. We're having lunch at the captain's table. Is the captain there? Well, no, he had to go to the toilet, so he won't be back. There's my friend Louis. He's standing out on the deck. That's the Atlantic Ocean behind them. I wondered where they put that. Now I know where it is, you know. And then they do all that stuff. The other thing is, and I don't know why they have so many of them. They think that I want to see them. I think the best one that I ever got was my dearest friend. Always said he wasn't going to go to Florida for any reason. Well, his wife did go down, and that was reason enough. And she said, come on down for a week or two. So I said, Joe, do me one favor. Don't send a picture to me. Don't write a letter, nothing, okay? He said, yeah, okay. So sure enough, lo and behold, here comes an envelope for me. And what he had done, he had stood like this, and he didn't take a picture of himself, but he took a picture down just of his tiptoes, you know? And it was kind of good, and we laughed a lot. And Joe and I did a lot of laughing before he passed. But that was one of the things. But it is, you know, don't bore your, like, you know, people have children. I've seen hundreds of kid pictures, and they all look alike. You could show me the same one every week, and I go, oh, that's a nice picture. Well, it is. It doesn't matter, okay? My God. Traveling is good. I had a good friend who traveled, but he traveled in this country. And somebody asked him in a conversation, Ronnie, are you going to Paris or Germany or anything? He said, no. He said, I have my itinerary already planned out. He said, I'm going to travel in the United States. And he goes, why are you doing that? He said, there's so much I didn't see, and it's right here. And he was right. And he did go to some very nice places, exciting places, you know. He said to me one day, he said, you know, I saw the Grand Canyon. I said, well, the Grand Canyon to me is a big hole in the ground. He said, no, it's not. You would believe in God if you saw the Grand Canyon, so I don't know where he's going with that, but really, he got around. And there are some great things in this country, and you get a ticket and go to Poland. Hoi! Which is a nice country, but I don't know, there's a lot going on here. The other thing about your retirement is that I hear people say, well, I am so bored. I'm so bored. And I told a guy sitting on a stool in the red carpet, I said, well, you got to get off the stool. You know, he said, 3 months. I said, get off the stool. Do something. You know, take a walk, a long one. Get a dog, train him. You know, go walk a dog for somebody. Go volunteer at the animal inn, all right? Work at the church. Do something like that. But don't waste all your time. I mean, that's silly. You know, if you looking to do something, there are so many people that are in need, really in deep need. They can't go to the grocery store. They have no one who visits them. You know, that puts the dog and you together. A lot of these nursing homes and now so forth are letting animals in to visit. And when I was in the hospital in recovery, they brought my dog in, who looked at me like, hey, how's it going? And he went by to see other people. But it's true. So, you know, you put the two together and you got a good mix. A lot of guys, and women play golf. To me, golf is a good walk spoiled, but that's my opinion. So I say to one guy, how often do you play golf? He said, every day. I said, every day? There's nothing else? No, there's nothing else. I said, what do you do when it rains? Oh, we sit around the bar and talk about golf. So what the hell is that? So I said, drop the clubs one day and walk a dog. You know, it's so silly that, you know, I tell the guys that retired that played golf, you know, I said, let me tell you guys, they were in the mall, and there were about 6 of them sitting. I said, you guys get older every day, and the older you get, the higher your score is going to go. So no matter if you hold the club like this or like that or whatever, your score is going up. So do something constructive. Take a dog for a walk. There are things that you can do in schools. People that will bring you in, they bring the firefighters in. So, you know, if you're a firefighter or a volunteer that you have time, you may go in there, you know. They love to see that stuff. I saw one kid, though, he was a little guy, he didn't recognize his father, of course, and all that turnout gear. Started to cry. I think we had to close that session down. But in any event, we try to do the best we can with what we have, which brings me to the education again. And my belief is to try to get the kids that go away, give them a reason to come back. All right? And this is a fact that Gail Caridi and I and Joe Greenbush, and I believe we might have talked with Paul about it, but we were going to look up the class of like 19 whatever that would make them the alumni for 5 years and ask them if they're interested in coming back. And they might say yes, but there's nothing there. They said, well, put something there. You know, they're out and bumping around and doing, they're clever, they learn a lot. There's a lot of land here, but believe me, you don't need a factory. You may need a few offices. But I heard from kids at MCLA, it was like being on vacation here because of all the vegetation, all the sports we have, all the recreation we have. It was one girl said, I hate graduating, you know. So but that was Gail. It was in the building down the way, okay? She talked about it, and her deal was wait till these young people are out 5 years or so, and get in touch with their class advisor or their class president, ask where some of these guys were, you get a duty sheet, and you write them, or you email them, or whatever. Plant the seed. I got a story that was a heartbreaker, and it was a long time ago, where a young man from Adams got a hold of one of the Adams selectmen, and the guy from Adams, his name was Little, and he got a hold of a selectman from Adams, and he said, I'm in the computer, I want you to come to Cape Cod and take a look at what I have. So I think it was Gary Shepard, and he said, all right. So he goes to the other two selectmen. We only had 3 at the time. So one said, it's a passing fancy. Okay? So Gary said, well, that only leaves me. And Little said, if that's the interest your select board has in Adams, I'm all done with them. I don't have any interest in them because computers are a passing fancy. That was terrible. That was terrible. So what's wrong? There's a guy who was going to come back and help this community, okay? He had it good. When I used to go to MIT, and I never went as a student, but I used to do some work there, I met guys that lived in that area all their lives, or they went to some school and came into MIT or whatever, okay? And they said if they could get a place to work with comparable wages, they'd even take a cut, they'd move out here to live because they said you got everything. When I used to go there, I'd go there, I'd be there a couple hours to do some stuff, right? It was so hard to park, they used to get a permit for me to park on a sidewalk because they were security. When the police would come, they'd tell them he's doing security. They go, okay. When I parked on a sidewalk, you know, it was one of the real wide jobs. But that's a terrible way to live. My God. I watch people at the supermarket, and if there's a parking place two spots down, they're going to drive down there and get it. You know, and you know, there's no place like home. My youngest daughter went to college. My oldest one didn't. Things didn't fit. But my youngest one went to college, and she went to MCLA. And somebody said, "Why do you go so close?" She said, "Well, I love where I live, and I love Berkshire County." And she lived on campus all 4 years. I heard from her once that she had a problem, that she was on I think it was the soccer team, and their toilet wasn't working. So being closed, she called me, and I played plumber. I went down and I fixed it, and all the soccer players whose bladder was full, they were very glad. That's the only time I would go and watch her play ball. It was fun. We'd see her, and we'd give her some money or whatever. She got good at cribbage. She didn't need money. But, you know, she said, I said, yeah, but all your friends are from Boston and New York and all that. She said, yeah, and when I want to be there, I go to visit them. So that was her thing, and she still lives in a community. She built, well, she's on, I think, her fourth house, and she's been teaching in Hoosick Valley for 22 years. And when she wants to go, she spends a lot of time in Maine with her husband. You know, it's beautiful. New England's beautiful. And coming back here, you know what they say, there's no place like home. And I believe that. I believe that. I think that we should give them the opportunity. They always say, the first thing I'm telling my kid to leave here and go someplace else. Well, how about downtown St. Louis? That's good. Uh-huh. They can end up any place. There's great jobs there. But they say, well, yeah, Louis makes $600 a day. Of course, his rent is $2,000 a day, you know. So it's a mishmash. And it's a shame that they always look at that end of it. I told the guys that came in to field engineering where I worked in Pittsfield, they would complain about working in Pittsfield and nothing's going on and they've got the plumber to fix the plumbing and he charged $19 an hour. That was a long time ago. And I said, well, why don't you become a plumber? Well, I don't want to do that. I said, you looked at the entry-level money. Yes, I did, and it was good. I said, how is it now? Well, I'm still getting it, yeah, right? So in my opinion, don't take entry-level money unless there's a future to it, or you like it. If you like something, you'll be more successful than the guy who doesn't like his job. That's probably why I wasn't very successful. But, you know, really, take it seriously. Think about this community. There's money here. There's people who will teach you how to do things if you come back. Route 2 is building up right here in North Adams, doing good things. North Adams has done some real good stuff. That to me is really an accomplishment. We're going to have the Glen. I don't want to even talk about it. But I'm running down on time. I got a minute and something. And it was a pleasure to come back and tell you some stories. And I really hope you do visit us. I really hope you talk to us. And what it can do, it can put you in touch with the future. Because the people that who work this joint, they know a lot of people. When they look at equipment, they go to Foxborough, to Gillette Stadium, you know. These are action people. These are action people. If you like action, come on here, and we have people that go out and take movies or football games, graduation, whatever it is. Give it a shot. I think you'd miss the boat if you didn't. What is it, 28 seconds. I want to thank you for having me into your home. They always say that on TV. Oh, here's one. Here's one. She was in North Adams, right? Why can't Adams do this? A guitar player, big name. What's the problem? I talk to people in Adams, we could have these every month. And they go, you know? I'm going to see you next time.